Hi, my name is Matan, and today I'm going to be talking about ADURO Clean Technologies and why I believe this is a great company and why I'm invested in it in the stock market. And I have a friend here with me who knows absolutely nothing about ADURO. He's just heard the name right now for the very first time, and I'm kind of just going to be taking this chance to explain to him what ADURO is. So I wanted to record this and see maybe if the explanation is good. He's going to maybe, banter with me back and forth and have some questions. So maybe this explanation will help you understand a little more about ADURO and why this is a great company. So to start off, what is ADURO and what is the problem they're solving? First of all, I don't know if you know, plastic is a problem. Right, we produce a lot of plastic, but you think when you put it in the recycling bin, it just gets recycled and some other company gets to use a new plastic bottle in a recycled way, right? But that's not really the case. Only about 9-10% of plastic actually gets recycled, and most of that 9-10% is really done in an inefficient way. It costs quite a lot, and it doesn't make much economic sense to be using recycled plastic versus what's called virgin plastic, which is just, original, new, cheap plastic. And so recycled plastic is just not a good solution as of right now. And there's only kind of one company that's tackling it, and it actually has, recycling plastic facility, and it's for very specific types of plastic. As you can see here, PP. I actually don't remember what that stands for, but there are several different types of plastics, and it says here 20%, 20.9%. As you can see, there's like a little white line, so it's like ADURO is actually, it looks like PureCycle is actually not taking up this 20%. It's actually much less from what I understand. But even if 20%, what ADURO's goal is to take a majority of it, which will be a huge boost in recycling plastic. But now when we're talking about recycling plastic, we're actually talking about upcycling, not recycling, which is quite different. Recycling just means turning plastic into plastic. Upcycling means turning it into something else. In this case, what they turn plastic into is gas, oil, petroleum, because plastic was actually derived from petroleum. And interestingly enough, it makes more financial sense because gas is quite expensive, and it makes sense to be turning it to that and reselling gas rather than reselling plastic, which is already a cheap material, and we already have we don't need to make more plastic. It's actually better that we make it into petroleum that we actually use a lot of, and can eventually be burned and doesn't stay in the environment for thousands of years. I don't know if you know, plastic, a big problem with it is you can't really, even if you don't recycle it, you can't even waste it, you can't even dump it out. Well, right, yeah. It just ends up in landfills or in the ocean, as you may have heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the ocean.
Yeah, the size of Texas.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not going to go over all the things that there are here. If you guys want, you can take a look at this interesting breakdown here. But currently, there's only two ways that most plastic is being recycled, and that's through something called pyrolysis and what was it? And another thing I kind of forgot, but there's two ways, and PureCycle is using pyrolysis. What's interesting about ADURO is they invented a new way here called hydrochemolytic. Actually, the two ways is like a chemical breakdown, and then I forgot the other way is maybe more like, I think, by heating it up with a lot of temperature, but that costs a lot of money and just doesn't make too much sense also in many ways, and it doesn't also solve the problem for all plastics because there's many different types of plastics. But the most common plastics are things that you use in food, package containers, even like ketchup bottles, right? And a big problem with that and with these things is that you need to have the plastic cleaned and very ready for their manufacturing process. Whereas their invention of the hydrochemolytic technology kind of flips that around. It actually works better with junk, with residue, with pretty much anything in your food container. So that flips the concept around of making it easy rather than hard, and also not using high temperatures. It uses a water-based solution, so it costs less. It's making petroleum and not plastic. For many reasons here, this makes a lot more financial sense, and they're tackling a market that is really huge and has almost no players in it. Right now, there's only Pure Cycle. Their valuation as of here, but as of right now, their valuation is like 2 billion. And Pure Cycle is only tackling a very small percentage of the plastic, whereas ADURO is going for a much bigger market. And ADURO is only a fraction of Pure Cycle's market cap of 2 billion. ADURO sits around 200, 300 million as of today. So about a 10x less than Pure Cycle. So
Pure Cycle is the biggest player in the market right now.
The biggest and kind of the only, honestly. At least the only that actually is in the stock market and has like a real product. There's a bunch of other companies that are just kind of like in prototype phase and there's really nothing to pay attention to. ADURO is way past that. They have proven their technology. They have I think their CTO I forgot his position. Eric Appelman, this guy, he talks about how they failed to fail. Like all these companies have to go through a lot of things and they usually fail, and like the goal is try and fail because this is like a very impossible problem, but they have failed to fail. Everything they've done with this hydrochemolytic technology has proven to work, and now it's kind of just a matter of getting this to scale commercially. And they actually have a lot of big back players. They have like Shell Oil and Total Energies and like a lot of big gasoline companies backing them up. And for many reasons, I find this very interesting. It says here the total addressable market's 290 billion. It's actually more like $1 trillion plus. But that's just talking about, plastic, first of all. I don't know about this 290 billion number, but even if so, that's a huge number from the small number from where we're at right now. And we're just talking about plastic. I haven't even gotten to yet. They also work on something called bitumen. I'm not too sure what that is, and renewable oils and fuels. I know bitumen is actually where they started and how they innovated this HCT, hydrochemolytic technology. And once they did that, they realized, if we can do bitumen, we can do plastic. So plastic was actually not even their goal. It was kind of like a mistake, which to me is a bullish signal because like all the best things, all the best inventions happen by accident. Exactly, right?
But what is bitumen?
Good question. It's from what I saw, it's like a blackish, really hard to break down material. Let's just see real quick. Is a black sticky substance derived from crude oil, primarily used as a binder in road construction and roofing. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's a very complicated material, I guess, to work with. Mm-hmm. And once they realize, we can, I guess what they call here, upgrade, not upcycle, upgrade bitumen. I think they upgrade it to something oils renewable oils and fuels. They do other things, but I'm focused on the plastic here, and I just find the extra stuff that they're doing nice and extra. And if they can do this, maybe they can, get into some other industries. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty interesting. It looks like they hold 10 patents. That's pretty interesting as well. I don't know too much about that actually, but I do know this. They are one of the only companies that are kind of like actually solving the problem. They have some big backers, and right now they're in the process of commercializing, which I think in September their plant needs to go live. And I'll mention one other thing that I really like about them. They only recently IPO'd or actually upcycled to the NASDAQ. They did an IPO in November, so they're a very new company in the stock market, but they were on the Canadian Stock Exchange, which is different than IPOing, because when you IPO, usually you have about a 6-month period to where the insiders have to lock up and hold their shares before they can sell. And we actually just passed that 6-month period. It was like, a few weeks ago, and the stock didn't tank. All the insiders did not sell.
Wow.
And also there isn't a lot of insiders because it's mostly retail investors because it was on the Canadian Stock Exchange. It wasn't private in the private markets, only for venture capital. And then usually, when they IPO, the venture capital will sell on you because they already made their money and, they're moving on to the next company, right? The people behind this company really believe and are behind it. The share float, there's actually not a lot of shares to go around. And the stock has been doing quite well recently, but it's really only about doubled from its IPO price. And even less than that, actually. I mean, it goes up and down, but depending on when you're watching this, it's still really early on. There's only one stock analyst talking about it, and they gave it a price target of $48, which is quite crazy. That's like a 5x from where we're at right now. And there's an even crazier price target from not an analyst, from just an individual investor, but he said apparently he spent like 3 weeks researching and coming up with this really nice report, which I want to make a whole separate video on. They gave it a price target of $758 from $10.
Oh my God.
It's beyond ridiculous. For many reasons, like I mentioned, I like this stock, but those price targets are just crazy to me. I mean, I've heard even crazier ones that can go beyond that, but those were based on like if their manufacturing plant takes place this year and they do X amount of, we'll get to the numbers in another thing, but if they do X amount of, here, let's see, what is this document? I went over this, I think, in another video, but what I'm trying to say here is, well, the total addressable market cap by 2030 is 120 billion, and it's only going to be growing and growing, especially if they are able to address more and more of the plastic problem. As you see here, it looks like only 50%. I heard we're getting to 80%. I'm not too sure. I thought, okay, it looks like PVC and certain things are not there yet, but either way, a lot of potential with this company. If we only get to what Pure Cycle is at, that's a 10x from where we're at, which is awesome. And we can go way beyond that. Any questions? What do you think? You like this?
I like this. I mean, the question is...
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just in the market. I see many, many different companies, and I like to look at tiny, tiny companies as well. I don't know. It's not a matter of how I found it. It's a matter of, is this going to be a big company, and should we pay attention? I think yes. Maybe I have my biases here, but I like sharing it with people and seeing what other people think and hearing if there's anything negative, any opinions you have about it. But yeah, this is the potential future by ADURO. Yeah, hope it's gonna be a good one.
Put me on the camera so they will say you're not talking to a ghost.
Oh my gosh! All right, sure, if you want to be. This is my friend Ben. All right, guys. Well, let me know if you have any questions, what you guys think about ADURO, and until next time, thanks for watching. Stay thinking, question everything, and peace the fuck out.